Today I was tasked with the responsibility of talking about the creative economy, naturally, since I'm a film producer, and how to build a nation on ideas. Now, as you know, there are many forms of art. There's paint, poetry, and whatnot. But I like to paint pictures with words. And so therefore, I shall paint a picture. I want you to pick up your pencil and reimagine these chains of islands as more than just rocks made to house big boats wanting to dock, or management for the wealth of the rich. Made on the backs of the exploited, the oppressed, who are overworked and overstressed, as you press your lead against the canvas built on the idea that foreign is better. And their vision is worth more, while our people are only good to open the door and smile while saying, "Good morning and welcome to my hotel." Where we are relegated to maids, butlers, housekeeping, and so, good enough to be in management, but never good enough to be the CEO. I want you to take that pencil and begin to draw out a new plan where our artists and the youth are told, yes, you can. Where young boys and girls are given a chance to grow, where we invest in the arts and nurture creativity. Where we stop using buzzwords about wanting the economy to be diverse only to kill the dreams of our youth and put them in a hearse, all while reverting back to the curse of the black crab syndrome. Yes. Where we think of the term industrial sector as more than just a hub for big oil and new ports, large containers and things of that sort, which yes, results in big dollars and jobs that seem nice until we start dying of illnesses and our health and environment are used to pay the price. When we think about industry, let us go beyond hotel, as cleaning the dust of that bureau stands the next Patti LaBelle, and checking in perhaps is Denzel as you drive the cab going about your day. You could very well be driven by the next Sidney Poitier. I guess what I'm trying to say is, instead of cutting corners and giving tax breaks to the rich, perhaps it's time to switch and make our country and economy stand apart by investing in art, like fashion and music and film. So when our pageant queens are asked, what did you give to the world? We too can say our culture and our rhythm, as opposed to providing tourism tours. And we can say that we were the first to create a generation of creative entrepreneurs. I want you to pick up your eraser and erase away the fantasy and fable of thinking you're building a new Bahamas while only the old sit at the decision-making table. Erase away the culture of leaders selling dreams only to make it seem as though we are going forward, when in fact we are taking 10 steps back. Why? Why? Are there some leaders who say they want to hear our voice, give us a platform on a stage, but when we disagree with them, they accuse us of being engaged, which makes one beg the question, do you truly want to hear the voice of the youth, or only the sycophants and those who agree with you? Erase the lies of a society that claims the economy is fair, when the banks will only invest in you if you're already a millionaire, when youth employment remains high, dead bodies are piling to the sky, and you have the nerve and the audacity to ask why? When you teach little Johnny that Jack is gay because he opposes to shooting hoops on the court, he prefers to write a stage play and needs to be a bully and abusive in order to be tough, but 10 years later when he shows up to your doorstep with a gun, you think he's being too rough? But that's the monster you created them. Young men in jail for possessing a plant that was born from the very seeds our God dropped from his hand after mixing and networking with those convicted of rape, murder, and robbery commit the same crimes when they are set free. Young women are told to pursue their dreams and life is all bliss, except when it comes to being equal. For that, they have to grow a penis. What I am saying, the very first moment out of the vagina we pop, our society is fixed, most of the time to benefit those at the top. Our many chain of islands works just like the human body, and we must embrace the creative juices and people that run through this body's veins. Instead of bleeding the country of minds that are ever so inclined, the ones to tell your story, or you will find they will all be leaving for better pastures. When you want a new customer, you come to us, the artists, to share your vision. You depend on our design to influence the investors' decision. It will be our work that will tell the story of this nation. So please, for the sake of the next generation, pick up your pencil and reimagine these chain of islands. As we talk about creativity and what that really means in the context of nation building, the best way to explain it is that being creative means to think of something new or to do something new. In other words, let us not be insane by doing the exact same things over and over and over, but yet somehow expecting new and different results. In order for one to be creative and to do new things and to think of new ideas, one first must have a vision. Before you can pursue, you must know what you are pursuing. And so therefore, in order to establish a vision, one must ask themselves 3 questions. These are the 3 most fundamental, important questions that you will ever ask yourself in your entire life. They are, who am I? What am I? And why am I? So I will start with me as an example. Who am I? I'm a storyteller. What am I? I'm a film producer. Why am I? Because I love communicating messages. So as a nation, we need to ask ourselves, who are we? What are we? And why are we? What is our role as a nation, as a people, and ultimately what role do we play in the global society? I'll tell you a vision that I had once a few years ago when I wanted a scholarship in order to go off to university. I had already completed 1 year, but I needed a scholarship in order to continue the rest of the years. And so I made a purposeful decision in my heart when I heard the Ottawa Embassy say that our Prime Minister was going to be in Canada, that I was going to meet the Prime Minister. This was my big idea, that I was going to meet the Prime Minister one way or the other, and I was going to talk to him, and I was going to tell him my situation, we're going to get the scholarship situation worked out, and life was going to be wonderful. Yeah. The problem, however, is that he was in Toronto, and I was in Moncton. For those of you who are unfamiliar with that, that's like being in Fort Lauderdale and the Prime Minister's in North Carolina, almost. It's quite a distance. It's about, roughly speaking, 21 hours. And so I made a decision that somehow, some way, I was going to Toronto. The problem was I was broke. So how do I get from this place to that place? The first thing I decided was to tap into my network. And so I began to reach out to friends who I knew in the area. I'd pick up the phone, dial them up and be like, hey, I'm Nathaniel. They'd be like, hey, Nate, what's going on? And I'd be like, I need a ride to Toronto. And they're like, you're crazy, get back. So that idea was null and void. Luckily for me, I had a job while I was in the area. And I ended up going to one of those advanced paydays. And I can tell you, I have been interviewed for a passport. I've been interviewed for a visa. I have never been scrutinized the way I was when I was trying to get an advance on my salary. They literally had their little eye thing, they looked at it, they made sure the passport was legit, the whole 9 yards. And finally, after 3 hours of deliberating, negotiating, asking questions, this thing and the next thing, they said, okay, we're going to give you, roughly speaking, about $200. This was enough to buy me a train ticket from Moncton to Montreal and a bus ticket from Montreal to Toronto. So I'm on this journey now and I'm just like, oh yeah, I got it, all confident, ready to go. I get on the train. Life is good. Life is wonderful. I'm headed to see the Prime Minister. One problem. At 12 o'clock midnight, the train broke down. I could not have foreseen that. I have no idea why, but the train literally broke down at 12 o'clock midnight. Now, bear in mind, this entire trip is planned out to the T in terms of timing. I need to be in Toronto at a certain time in order to make an event, in order to see the Prime Minister. So, The train breaks down, they finally pick back up, we get in Toronto, roughly speaking around the afternoon. Long story short, I missed my bus and now I've got to catch the second option. Now, feeling all good, feeling all confident, went to buy the ticket. Here's the problem. Online, the ticket was $30. In person, the ticket was $60. So I was $30 short. So once again, tapped into my network and be like, hey guys, I'm in Montreal. I need a ride to Toronto. Nate, goodbye. Or at least in Quebec, au revoir. So no ride to Toronto, not too sure what to do. I finally decided to go back to the ticket counter and I said, listen, I use my resources. And I pulled up my phone and I said, this is all I've got on me. This phone is worth 3 times as much as that ticket. Will you please take it and allow me to go to Toronto? The guy looks at the ticket and he picks up his phone, and I'm not entirely sure what he said, but he started talking in French. And he said to his boss, and he's looking at me, and I'm just looking at him like, I hope they're not trying to kill me or something. These folks, I don't know what they're saying. And so after about 5 minutes on the phone with his boss, he looks back at me and he says, okay, good news, we got you a ticket. And I was just like, thank you so much. Here's the phone. He's like, no, keep the phone. You're good, you're good, you're good. So now I'm on my way at 6 p.m., leaving Montreal, headed to Toronto. What's the problem with this? The problem with this is that the event itself is scheduled to end at 6 p.m. So I'm trucking away. We're in Kingston, Ontario, headed to Toronto. There's absolutely no way I'm going to get there. By the way, this entire time that I'm going on this journey, I'm communicating with the embassy, and they're all cheering me on like, go Nathaniel, go, yay! I can't believe you made it this far. We didn't think it was possible. So they're all like cheering me on as I go, and so I'm just like, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Why? Because I had a vision. I had an idea. And no matter what it took, I was going to pursue that idea to the very end. And so there I am. I finally reached Toronto. It's 9 o'clock in the night, and the event has long been over. However, the Prime Minister has another event the very next day with the Chamber of Commerce. So I'm just like, I'm going to get him there, I'm going to get him there. But then reality kicks back in. What am I going to do tonight? So bear in mind, I've spent literally every single dollar that I have at this point, and I'm in the lobby of the hotel, and these gentlemen walk over to me. And they're Bahamians, we're talking, and they're just like, so where are you going to stay? I'm just like, I guess I'm going to be homeless. So he takes out about $5 and he says, listen, I want you to go over to that bar, and I want you to drink very slowly. And if you let this drink last long enough, morning should hit you and you should... good spot to see the Prime Minister the next day. So that was my plan. And yes, the moment I was able to go into the bar, these other set of Bahamians intersected along the way, and they started talking to me again, chatting me up, whatever have you, and my nice pleasant self, hey, how's it going on? Life is wonderful, life is great, don't worry about it, no problems in the world. And they asked me the question, where are you going to stay? I said, I guess I'm going to be homeless tonight. They were like, no. We can't allow Bahamians to be homeless tonight. And so it turns out they actually went to check me into that very hotel. Guess what happened? The hotel was overbooked. But lucky for me, however, they had a sister hotel. They checked me in. They gave me room service, the whole 9 yards. Life was absolutely wonderful at that point. The very next day, I went to the event, and somehow, some way, between 9 o'clock that night and 12 o'clock that afternoon, I ended up on the VIP list as a part of the Bahamian delegation. Can't explain it, no idea, but when you have a vision, and when you pursue that vision, you just have to show up, and things will work itself out. Once you begin to pursue, and once you begin to act, and once you know where you're going in life, ultimately things begin to work out. That's how we talk about building a nation with ideas. We can't predict the future, but we can in fact make plans and take action today. And so I met the Prime Minister, we had a good conversation, he gave me his email address, he told me to send us some information, and ultimately we would have worked towards getting that scholarship. I never got that scholarship. But it's okay. It's okay, because I walked away with 2 things. A really good story. walked away knowing and much more confident that day than I was the day before. But if I put my mind to something, I can indeed pursue it. And so as we talk about building this creative economy, what does that really mean in the context of our diverse, service-based nation? What that means is we must be able to find a way whereby all elements of our economy, of our society, work together. And so therefore that requires the artists, that requires the policymakers, and that requires our leaders. And when all three of those come together in a unique way whereby they work together, ultimately we can build this society that's far more creative and far more beneficial for all of us to live in. There's a piece of the pie for everyone. And if everyone does their part, and if everyone does their hard work, and if everyone does their due diligence, we can ultimately make a better society. So, for example, while we do cater to the big businesses, and while we do go out looking for the foreign investors, what if I was to tell you that every single investor that this island and this country need already exists right here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas? We may not have $30 billion in cash, but we have $30 billion in ideas. True story, the owner of a tech company, they started out by actually getting fired. They lost their job and they really, really needed employment. So they applied to Facebook and they said, you know, we're good, we're in technology, we really need this job, let's apply. Facebook turned them down. Then they went to another tech company and applied. That company turned them down. Long story short, they decided, well, you know what? I'm going to start my own business. That way I can hire myself. So they started their own business, they grew it, and eventually Facebook, the very company that turned that employee down, ended up buying that company for $1 billion. Now imagine if we had 20 others of those exact same persons with that exact same idea. That's $20 billion right here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and more so, that is Bahamian ownership. And so as we talk about investment, and as we talk about building, and as we talk about a new way of doing things, as opposed to trying to build our society from the outside in, maybe it's time to take a new approach and build our society from the inside out. And so I leave you again with these three questions. Who are we? What are we? Why are we? And when we look at ourselves, a realistic, analytical look at who we are as a people, and answer those three questions, then, and only then, can we build a creative economy built on ideas. Thank you.